So we're now going to hear Marco Bigica's talk on selective impact of sleep deprivation on cognitive functions. And yes, take it away, Marco.
Cool. Can you see the full slide? Yes, nice. Right. Hi, everyone. I'm a PhD student at Cardiff University. And today I will give you a brief glimpse of the work I've been doing on the impact of sleep deprivation on the cognitive functions. So differently from the title, I will only focus on from the original title in the abstract. I will not talk about the brain in fMRI terms. But yes, hopefully it will be just as interesting because, yes, so there is really a lot of studies that have been done on the effects of sleep deprivation, and you may have known yourself from just not getting enough sleep how you feel after a night of poor sleep or sleep deprivation. But really what has emerged is that there are certain cognitive domains like vigilance and emotional processing that are really, really universally strongly impaired, and others like memory and selective attention and executive functions, which have also been studied, but have it has emerged that they are impaired, but maybe to a lesser extent or not in all individuals. And then there are also other domains like metacognition and perception, which are also, I think, quite interesting to study, but have received much, much less attention. So in my project, I'm really aiming to better understand how sleep deprivation affects a range of cognitive functions, and particularly these that have not received so much attention. So how do I do it? I've tested 14 participants during on this experiment that you can see on the slide. So basically, the experiment includes a 36-hour period of total sleep deprivation. That means one night without any sleep, and this occurs in the laboratory. So participants arrive in the morning around 7 a.m. and they will stay in the laboratory for about 36 hours. During this time, they get no sleep. We monitor their brain state with a headband, and at multiple sessions that you can see here on the top row, multiple times during the day, we assess cognitive functions using behavioral tasks, as well as we also assess their. We also take neuroimaging scans using MRI. And then they go home after 36 hours. They have a nice, comfortable sleep in their own bed and come back the next morning for a final recovery session. As I said, I'm interested in a range of cognitive functions. So these are the ones that I'm looking at using different tasks. But specifically given the short time, I will just glimpse to three of these: vigilance, selective attention, and metacognition. So let's dig into the first topic. And so how does sleep deprivation affect vigilance? By vigilance, I really mean sustained attention. So our ability to remain focused for a prolonged period of time. To do this, we use a super simple task. Participants just fixate on a cross in the middle of the screen. When a counter appears, they have to press a button as fast as they can. So we count how many trials these participants have response times greater than half a second. So this counts as lapses. It's called a lapse. And what we observe, you can see on the x-axis the amount of hours awake. So each of these is one session. And on the left side, it's a baseline. So this is the first session they do in the morning. They have about 13 lapses on average. And then the amount of lapses that they do increases with the time spent awake. And then it goes back to baseline after a night of recovery sleep, as you can see from the right dot. So we can conclude that sleep deprivation does impair vigilance. This is well known already. Let's move into the more maybe controversial findings. For example, selective top-down attention. And we operationalized selective top-down attention using a visual search task. It's also a task that just required participants to fixate the cross And there are a number of items that appear on the screen. One is a target, this T, and the other are just these similar distractors. Participants just have to press a button, a left depending on where the T is pointing. But we vary the set size, so the amount of distractions present on the screen. And what usually happens just normally is that the response time increases with increasing set size. And what we are particularly interested is this slope here. So the amount of increase between set sizes. What we expect if the sleep deprivation has a selective effect on top-down attention is an increase in the slope in sleep deprived session compared to well-rested. However, we don't find a difference in the slope. As you can see here, these are in different colors, the different sessions. You can pretty much see, despite the overlap, that the slope is pretty much the same. And in fact, it's the interaction between the hours awake and set sizes is not significant, although there is a generalized increase in response time. So from this, we can conclude that sleep deprivation does not selectively affect top-down attention. So moving to the metacognitive part, this is particularly interested, I think, because metacognition is also our ability to think about our, for example, the decision that we made, the thinking about thinking, and so to measure this, what we use a perceptual task first. It's in this case, a grating is presented, it tilts to the right or to the left. Participants just say they move to the right or to the left, but then really the metacognitive task is that they have to rate the confidence about the accuracy in their judgment. So 1, if they are very unsure that they made the correct choice. 5, if they're really sure they made the correct choice, for example. And then we, using methods derived from signal detection theory, we calculate the metacognitive performance as the relationship between the confidence and the accuracy. And you can see this, if this shaded gray area is greater, then that means that they have better cognitive performance. If it's low, if it's small, it's poorer cognitive performance. And so our results here are normalized to the baseline, so relative to the session when they're just have just woken up and they're fresh. You can see a reduction in the area under the curve, so in a reduction in the metacognitive ability with the time spent awake. So when they're more sleep deprived, they have poorer metacognitive performance. And then I think this is particularly interesting because it really also relates to our assessment of our own fit when we are, for example, we didn't have a very good night of sleep and we want to drive. We think we are super fine, but our actually ability to judge ourselves is impaired. And so this may put us at further danger. And so just to conclude, I just summarize what we have found so far, that sleep deprivation affects cognitive function selectively. Why selectively? Because we see some cognitive functions that are strongly affected, like vigilance, others that are not particularly affected, like selective attention, and then some also that are also specifically impaired, like metacognition. And since we also acquired the neuroimaging scans in many of the sessions, we are now, I'm now analyzing these results to really try to understand why maybe different areas that underlie the cognitive processes involved in this task are more resilient, and hence they make certain cognitive function more resilient. Right. So thank you for your attention.
You're getting my applause here. Thank you. That was great. All right, so do we have any questions? I'm not seeing anything yet in the Q&A. Open questions. Okay, I'll ask a question first. So you found this effect on metacognition in acute sleep deprivation. Like, if people are bad sleepers, would this effect be sustained like throughout the day?
So what we've done is an acute sleep deprivation experiment. So participants go without sleep for just one night. findings about, say, sleep restriction. So sleeping less than what you maybe need to for several nights. There are no study that I know of about metacognition, but I can, for example, tell you that these prolonged effect of sleep restriction after a few days is just as bad as one full night of sleep deprivation with respect to, for example, lapses in vigilance and other cognitive functions. So I wouldn't know about metacognition, but it's possible. For example, subjective ratings of how sleepy you are have been shown to be significantly worse than actually objective rating of vigilance, as, for example, measured by this vigilance task. And this is an example of a metacognitive impairment. And I would have to look, but yeah, I may think that after a few days you are also impaired in our ability to judge yourself.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you. So there's a question in Q&A from Aldana. What impact do you expect in diffusion MRI?
Yeah, thanks for your question. So, for example, there are animal studies who have shown that the thickness of myelin is decreased after sleep deprivation. This may have to do with the function of sleep in reconstructing, repairing myelin, because during sleep there are lots of proteins and genes that activate that are related to this aspect. So with our diffusion data, for example, we expect to find a reduction in myelin thickness of axons.
Okay, I hope that answers the question. Apparently it does. Okay, thanks, Aldana. Cool. Do we have any more questions?
I could ask one. Marco, great talk. Your findings on metacognition, they remind me of basically when people drink. When people drink, I know that they aren't aware of how impaired they are. And so what my curiosity is how would I compare like the impairment of losing sleep versus being inebriated or something like that?
Yeah, I remember reading somewhere that they routinely make these associations, because many of the impairments that are observed after sleep deprivation resemble those that one can see after drinking too much. But yeah, you're asking how to do an experiment to compare the two.
Yeah, essentially, and it may be apples to oranges, but it does, like you said, it has a striking resemblance.
Yeah, I guess what may be interesting is if we find the same behavioral effects in a person who is sleep deprived and drunk, we may be interested to look at the neural underlying mechanisms. So whether they are the same or they are different, for example.
So you're going to have very interesting sessions at your scanner there, I guess.
Yes.
Is there any more questions there?
I have a short question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wondering, like, it was very good presentation, nice presentation. So I was just wondering, like, when you're going to do resting state fMRI, as we all know that this resting state fMRI paradigm is a very sleep-inducing experimental design. So
yeah.
How to like confound your finding of this difference between?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good point. So our resting state is a 5 minutes resting state. We try to put it immediately at the beginning of the scan, so that we maximize the ability that they are awake. we have no eye tracker, so we can't track them. So that's a limitation of our study. Immediately following the sleep deprivation, immediately following the rest and stay scan, there is a in the same bold sequence. After 5 minutes rest and stay, it starts another 5 minutes of the same psychomotor vigilance task that I showed you earlier, just in the scanner. So one way that we have to sort of see if they are awake is that they are, if they immediately respond to the stimulus, then we know that they are awake. If they don't respond, in 1 or 2 instances, for example, they fall asleep, so we had to redo the scanner because we knew that objectively they had fallen asleep. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Sounds good. Very interesting.